You are a diaspora affairs strategist and a leader in the United States of America. Now, good people, I want to start this conversation on that table. Ladies, let's start with you. I want you to talk to us, the people that are watching, talk to us about your dream of going to work. When did it start? How did you decide to go and work wherever it is that you went to work? What was your experience? And what did you come back with in terms of what you found, your experience, your impressions, and the stories that you came back with? Talk to us.
Okay, my name is Njoki Wandegwa. That's how people call me. But my full names are Sarah Njoki Ndegwa. I'm a migrant laborer, and I had worked there for 3 years.
Where did you go?
I went to Dubai.
Okay, and when did you go?
I went there in 2020.
Right.
Yeah, and came back in 2023. And the experience was good, although hakukosangi challenges. Kuna advantages of going there and working there. Kuna also disadvantages of working there. So the experience was good, according to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you may, Njoki, talk to us about the moment you made the decision to actually leave Kenya. I mean, there's opportunities everywhere across the world, including here.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how it is that you made that decision. Dubai is where I want to go.
Okay, sometimes the situations make us to make decisions. So my situation made me go there. So because I had no work here, I was not working. So kukosa kazi, let me say, ndo ilifanya ni decide kwenda kufanya kazi Gulf, especially Dubai. So me not working ndio ilifanya niende kufanya kazi Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to come back to you to just understand a little bit about what experience it is that you found there. But let's bring in Madam Maureen. Karibu. Karibu sana, Maureen.
Outside the country 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, according na challenges ya life, maisha, alafu Kenya kupata job ni hard. So nikadecide kwenda Saudi Arabia. Nimefanya huko for 4 years, 2 months. At least nimeona maisha imebadilika. So mimi naweza advise wase huko nje madem. Tunaweza enda huko nje. Life Kenya ikikuwa ngumu, tunaweza enda kujaribu huko nje.
All right.
Yeah.
Sawa. So tutarudi, I really want to get those stories. I really want to understand. For example, we want to talk about something like the culture shock. You know, these, for example, both of you went to the countries in the Gulf. There's the religious culture there. There's a local culture there. There's a language factor there. There's the climate culture there. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Food even, you know, food is a big thing. Unapata ugali?
No? Like
So you did taste ugali for 4 years.
Nilikula.
Beba unga mogo.
Yes, nilikula.
All right. That's wonderful. And finally, last but not least, from that table, I want to talk to Sabina. Talk to us about how is it that you got to be involved in the conversation that we have today?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for having us. It's an absolute privilege, at least for me, as a young person in Kenya, a woman, and also a Kenyan citizen. My story is a little bit probably maybe the opposite, I don't know. But for me, the opportunity to study abroad is how I come into connection with the diaspora conversation. And I go in for my postgraduate studies. And so I'm able to actually collect the narrative as a recipient of being a diasporan. And so I make the decision to come back home and decide to escalate the conversation with the diaspora and connect with, agencies and the government as well as civil society and try and enhance and figure out how we can ensure that Kenyans abroad know that they're remembered at home.
Right. And then
tonight you have to appreciate something.
Yes.
The presence of Njeri here
yes.
is testament to, we've had the horrific, harrowing details of Kenyans saying their agents have messed them up,
Yes,
their
indeed.
agents have done ABCD, the agents have retained their passports, they have withheld that, someone has a job offer, already has a visa, but, the travel document has been withheld by the agents.
Rogue
And,
agents.
rogue agents. And, just to be able to get what exactly it means in their role, and even to be able to just understand
Yes,
who an agent is in trying to connect you
Absolutely.
with jobs abroad.
It's a reality that most of the agents you will not get a hold of for such conversations.
Yes.
And
Thank you
therefore,
for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you
when
so
you have
much.
one
Terry.
who's confident
Thank you
enough,
for being open.
you know.
But let's help us to understand how did you identify an opportunity for yourself to make agents as the thing that you're going to do to be able to earn a living? Please talk to us about your beginnings.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Ridia Jerry, Director in Jenny International. Yeah, I'm a recruiting agency. Yeah, I had an idea because I traveled before to Dubai. Yeah, I have worked in Dubai for 2 years. So when I came back, I had that idea. Yeah,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So it's from your own experience.
yeah,
you're able to-
yeah.
Did you
Great.
go with an agent or did you find your way out?
Oh, with the agent.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
How was your experience when you were dealing with that agent you went with?
it was not bad. Yeah,
Okay. They assisted you with everything?
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we have a gentleman here, of course, from the ministry, the State Department of Labor and Skills Development. Karibu sana, Mr. Mwanzia. Talk to us a little bit about what your department actually does. We want Kenyans to really, really understand. It's very gratifying to see a representative of government here taking an interest in this conversation and also taking the opportunity to make things clear, to help people understand exactly how the government or where the government stands in all of this. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor.
Thank you.
Remember, thank you for having us here today. I think it's a good opportunity for us as a Ministry of Labour to get engaged in this conversation, which has become a key topic today, because we all know Kenya is a developing country like many others has been faced by the challenge of unemployment for the longest. Why? Because the opportunities that we are generating in our economy are not enough to take care of the many young graduates that are coming out of our training institutions at all levels. I think statistics from KBS tell us around 1 million or so graduates are leaving our training institutions from O-level, class 8 level, and university. And the formal sector is only able to absorb around 0.2 million of those. So the balance is left to be, absorbed by the informal sector. And we all know the challenges that the informal sector jobs, normally, have. So that is what has really spurred the interest of the government in, actively pursuing for employment opportunities outside our borders, because the kind of jobs that we find in the informal sector are not very decent, do not provide adequate income, and are basically survival jobs, apart from those that are operating in what we would call profitable SMEs. So that is what, was informed the government decision when the new government was elected in 2022 to establish the Department or the Directorate of Labor Migration, which is domiciled in the State Department for Labor and Skills Development, and which I'm currently heading. It's actually a year old now. And the key mandate of that department is that it's supposed to coordinate all labor migration activities within the country and also outside the country, including both public and private actors, because we note that the business of labor migration involves both private and public entities within the country, like Jerry, and also outside the country. That is the countries of destination, the partnering countries, the partnering agencies of the destination countries, and the institutions of, those governments. So first and foremost, coordination, because this realization came because when we did our research, when the government did their research, it was found out that labor migration had been happening for the longest, because the statistics, although they are not really very accurate, tell us that we have around 4 million Kenyans spread across the globe. But that is that's data that you cannot pin to a particular study,
So it could be
verified. It could be more. But these people have been moving over time. And they have largely been moving on their own, facilitated by the private sector, players, the agencies, individuals on their own, and partly government, but in a disjointed manner. Because we have institutions within the Ministry of Labor that facilitate labor migration, the National Employment Authority, which regulates the private recruitment agencies. We have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that has a role in facilitation through attestation of documents, through welfare services that are provided by the missions abroad, the protection services that it offers there through the embassies. We have the Ministry of Education that is in charge of certification of educational qualifications, that is authenticating whether they are genuine or not. We have the Directorate of Criminal Investigations that does the certificates of good conduct. We have the Immigration Department that is in charge of the processing travel documents, birth documents, and the airport authorities, the airlines. So for the longest, all those actors were operating in a disjointed manner, and hence the challenges that our people, migrants, were experiencing, including delays in deployment times, delays in processing of these documents and all that. All that is what led to the outcry that Kenyans have been, letting out in the past several years before the new government came into power. So one key function of the department is to coordinate those agencies so that they can operate in a seamless and in an integrated manner. The second key function was to provide protection for the migrants across the migration ecosystem, that is from recruitment to migration, the migration itself, the migration journey, the tenure of service in their destination countries, and even in facilitation of return and reintegration. That is working with all the agencies within that ecosystem and providing a system of coordination. So those are the two broad mandates of the Directorate of Labor Department as set out in the executive order of number 1 of 2023. Yes.
So if I may just jump in a little bit before my colleagues take it up. So you mean to tell me and tell Kenyans that now it is easier, safer for a Kenyan to plan and take the steps to leave, go and work and come back than ever before?
It is much, much better. The only issue that we are working on now is dissemination of the information. Because we are relatively new, a year old.
Right.
We are in the process of deploying manpower to the department itself, and also now putting the structures to now actualize that mandate.
All right. Because I was going to ask Madam Jerry here, is this true? Is it actually easier?
Yeah, very easier. Yeah.
Compared to the time when you went. You went, what year did you go?
2014.
2014?
Yeah.
So if you compare how it is now and how it was when you went for the first time, what would you say are the biggest differences?
So the difference is like now there's more jobs. So most people are familiar to deployment. Before there was that fear, I don't know, many stories that was happening, but nowadays there are not such things. Yeah.
Excellent. Right.
They say that it's one thing to travel abroad for work, for education and all that. It's another to actually stay there and like it there. And most of the people will tell you that once you get that chance, the greatest fear then is that you don't want to come back home. And not just come back home, but come back home with not much to show. You deal with very many Kenyans in diaspora. What do they make of their stay in the different countries and nations that they are at? And do they feel well represented, like you say? You know, one of the sole mandates of the Diaspora Alliance is to remind them that they are remembered back at home. Do they feel like indeed they have a country to go back to or a country to serve in terms of remittances?
Thank you, Linda, for that question. And I say this because the conversation around diasporans exceeds just, you know, the idea behind, you know, leaving your country and saying, I want to, I don't know, take a flight or whatever. People leave the country for different reasons. However, the experiences are, I would say, they're nuanced. In order for us to understand the diasporic experience, I think it's important to be able to relate both sides of the coin. So speaking from a superficial sense, if I say, for example, I'm able to travel to, I don't know, South Africa or to the UAE if I would like, a person who has lived abroad for 2 weeks has a completely different experience from a person who's lived for an extended period of time.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, there's factors such as, you know, your culture, there's the language barriers and all that. However, that being said, there's particular themes that come out when we deal with diasporans. With the Kenya Diaspora Alliance, which I am affiliated with, this is an organization that we have a nominal representation of over 300,000. And of course, we are working to align ourselves with the government to ensure that we have at least 1 million Kenyans registered. The goal here is to bring on the conversations about what challenges and even probably even the positives of living abroad. But like I said, it's not just as simple as that. When a Kenyan is out there and they represent their specific cultures or tribes in Kenya, they are an extension of that culture. And we have to understand one thing, and this is one of the reasons why I'm glad
They're like ambassadors.
Yes, exactly. They're literally ambassadors. But here's the thing. When we started the interview, you mentioned about the Kenyan band. Yes. Our way of living in Kenya is completely different when you're living abroad. When you're abroad, you do not necessarily identify as a Kalenjin. When you meet a Kenyan, your first instinct is not, oh, this is a Kalenjin, or this is a Luo, or this is a Kikuyu. Your first instinct is, this is a Kenyan. What I'm pointing towards here is, all Kenyans are united in the idea that Kenya is a beautiful country, Kenya is a resourceful space, and above all, we all have the dream of ensuring that our country is looked at as first base. I'm pointing to the fact that leaving Kenya should be something that is more a choice. You shouldn't be pushed to the edge to say, I'm leaving the country because I have no choice but to leave the country. Right. So the themes that come across in our interactions with our fellow diasporans abroad is, and I hope that we're going to be able to delve into it, is their desire to leave the country is greatly pinned to the structures that exist in our society. So for example, when the conversation around remittances, we're looking at numbers right now that have been increasing. For example, in 2018, we were at 300 billion. Now we're looking at 600 billion. Remittances are an economic powerhouse that cannot be understated. When Kenyans are working hard there, we have parents who are even probably past their retirement age remitting money back home. They want to know that their investments are going into proper, transparent, and accountable structures so that that money can be able to not just work for them and represent them, like I said, the ambassadorial duty, but most importantly, contribute back to us. And so I think the importance really of this conversation should really focus on the representation around what our Kenyan diaspora is bringing and reflecting back to us as a society.
Just how crucial is, just how important is, of course, the contribution of the local government towards making sure that then their stay and of course their working environment is then pretty much easy for them back abroad. I mean, at what point does the government come in? At what point do the ambassadors then come in to ensure that, of course, even as they work to remit back home or work to earn a living, it is an easy ride for them?
It feels like we're feeding off of each other because you say easy ride for them. And that is precisely the premise of conversations around diaspora and remittances. One of the should I say, the pioneering themes that have been sustained throughout the 10 years that, for example, the Kenya Diaspora Alliance has existed, is that of trust and accountability. I think it's, I don't know how to put this, but I'm going to say it in the most polite way possible. I think it's unfortunate that in 2024, we're still talking about a trust deficit. And that is quite prevalent within the diasporic community. And specifically, this is tied to, like I just explained, your remittances. Because just to whittle it down a little bit, when you are working hard as a Kenyan out there, as represented by my fellow ladies here, you want to know that your money is secure. You want to know that your money, when you have structures that have been labeled as, for example, financial institutions in the country, you want to know that your money will be safe when you get back home. And so I think the simplistic answer to this is a collaborative effort between organizations such as the Kenya Diaspora Alliance, as well as other organizations and civil society, to come in together and identify the themes that are coming across and trying to secure the trust deficit. One way they can do this is, for instance, including secured financial, maybe technological advancements, where there's money or financial transfers, the people's money can come back home. But beyond that, there's also an aspect that has not really been touched on, which again is highlighted in our interactions with our diasporans, which is reintegration. Like I said, you're not leaving home for 50 years in a different country. You want to know that you're going to come back. And so the government has to come in together in a collaborative effort and ensure that the conversations that we're having are actually cemented into structures to ensure that our fellow diasporans can have restored trust in the government.
Talking of fellow diasporans, let's loop in Danson Mukile, based in the US. Danson, thank you for staying on the line. Of course, we've heard what's happening, the discussion here in studio. We want to pick your mind. You're especially an US-based entrepreneur and avionics tech engineer. Your perspective is quite interesting because a good number of Kenyans move to, get employment, but you have also, gone ahead and, gone the innovation way, especially in what most have referred the free world, the United States of America. How quote unquote easy has it been for you? And what are some of the opportunities that, whenever someone sees you and, for instance, the young people watching you can say, fine, perhaps I do not want to work, traditionally or has been in the few area that has been in the past. I want to go and innovate so that I'm able to make an impact globally. How are the tectonic plates shifting, especially for you?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the discussion tonight. My moving to the US was school-based. I came as a student in the United States.
When was that?
Then, can you hear me?
Yeah, when was that? When did you move? Which year was it?
Oh, that's in 2016.
And
from that time, I had to, after finishing my master's program, I found another way. Actually, it was totally different. I was in the medical field and I had to shift to the tech. And at the moment, I'm in aviation tech. So I work with one of the airlines here in the United States. And it hasn't been easy because for the US, it's quite different because, as you have said, the diaspora is very dynamic. The experience in the United States is totally different from the Middle East, from Africa, and also maybe Europe. It's quite different. So the way you approach how you move from Kenya to a different country, you have to at least adopt. And I must talk to the director there, and I have to tell him that the president has put a direct department for diaspora that has really been working a lot of things. And one of the things that we have been working on, the migration of labor, things that have been missing is the protection of the rights of the people moving in the diaspora. Because today, Bwana George, you will move from Kenya, you go to the Middle East or come to the US, but you lose your right to vote. So there has been issues that the government has been actually neglecting that actually has to move in tandem. Yes, there's all these labor migrations that are being signed and the people are moving, which is okay. I recommend the government that at this moment they are really exposing the Kenyan labor across the world, which is really good because other countries, like for example the Philippines, the India government, the Nepal, even other Morocco, for example, which is also has an agreement with Germany, the same case as Kenya, it's been finding a way on how to expose the young people to the world. People have been saying that when you move in the diaspora, you are losing your job or you are taking the best skill. But today, I can be a good example. I came here in study, went to the corporate world, I gained experience. Today, I have a firm in Kenya that is employing few people who are Kenyans. And if I not come here, how would they have gotten that opportunity? So there's a lot of gain from people moving. But as we do that, and it's good the director is there, we need to do it in a way that these people who are moving are also going to be protected. Their rights, the right to vote, the right to be represented, the right, actually their welfare to be addressed. Because when you come to the United States, and many people have come to the US, you'll experience culture shock from the food, from how you interact with people, or how they view you, even how you talk, how you interact with them is totally different. By the time, it will take about 2 years in the United States to actually understand how the United States run. About 2 years.
So Danson,
any person who has come to the
So, and I mean, and we can see the Kenyan flag behind you talking about, you know, the ambassadorial role that Our Lady here is talking about in studio. So how green then is the grass on the other side, especially on the US side? Many Kenyans really, they have, you know, long queues, you know, people are waiting to come to the US. How green is really this grass on the other side?
There are opportunities in the US. There are thousands of opportunities, especially in the healthcare. If I was just to give you some numbers, the need for the healthcare workers in the US per year, it could be over 1 million for just nurses. This is one category. We have all other categories that they need workers. And the US have set up their immigration in a very structured way. The reason why you find so many people maybe missing visas at the embassy is because what you call the quota system. And people try to come to the US and maybe they don't get the visas because by the quota system, I mean, the US government looks at how many Kenyans have come in the US, how many of them have gone out of the status, meaning they have not followed the immigration rules that have been set up. Now they look at that, then they classify, they lower the quota system because many people who are coming here, they're not keeping their status right. So we encourage people who come here in the US that please, for you to help another person to come here in the US, keep your status alive. Because they look at that and they be like, we are not going to bring in many people from Kenya because this is their trend. They'll come here to visit, they'll come here for a conference, they'll come here as tourists, but then they're not going back. So that is the one that really affects many people, and you see people are so frustrated with the embassy.
Right. Danson, I have a question for you. I want you to talk to the Kenyans that are watching you right now, the ones that want to come to where you are right now. I want you to talk about the following. Number one, would you be able to give us a few tips? Pick 3 or 4 main tips that you'd give to anyone who's trying to go to the United States, okay? Tips on how to get there. Number 2, once you're there, kwa ground, ukishafika kwa ground, can you talk to us a little bit about the common pitfalls, the common dangers that affect Kenyans as soon as they land in whatever state they land in? Talk to us about some of those dangers and how to fix them. And as you do that, I want our 2 ladies, Maureen and our dear colleague here, to also talk to us a little bit about their own experience in the Gulf. So ladies, get ready. Danson, take it away.
Thank you so much. Number 1 tip for whoever wants to move to the US, there's category of visas. So you need to know the type of the visa and the reason why you're coming to the US. If you want to come to the US as a student, you have to look for the F1 category of visa. There is F1 and also F2. If you're coming to visit, we have the B1 and B2. That's number 1. You need to know the type of the visa that you're applying. B1 and B2 is highly competitive, the visiting visa, and also F1, it's highly competitive. We have other categories of visas, like for people who are coming for special skills. If, for example, you have skills that you feel the United States will need, go for that particular visa. Some of those visas, they may not have a lot of competition. The media personnel, for example, if they want to come to the US, there's a category of visa for them. So look for the particular category of the visa and the reason why. Go through the due process. The United States is very clear on where to get the information. You can't use an agent or whichever who can take your money. Don't do that. Their information is highly available. When you get an opportunity to come to the US, number one, make sure you have access to any Kenyan who is in the US. We are everywhere. Every state in the United States have a Kenyan. Every city have access. Use, for example, the State Department has set up a program in a way that they have kind of put all the associations who are, that's the process they're doing at the moment. And KDA, I see Ms. Sabina there. KDA is part of those associations in the diaspora that can actually provide some of the resources for those people who are coming here. Number three, please make sure that the type of the visa you have, it has restrictions. If it says do not work, if you find yourself you're going to work, then you're against the law. So if you have a category of the visa that limits you or gives you a certificate, for example, F1, in many instances, they'll give students 20 hours to work every week. So make sure you follow that. So those are some of the key tips when you're coming to the US. Have access to your people and maintain the status of that visa. Because the technology in the US is so well. Once you get that specific number from the embassy, it has access to everything you have. So it's good to maintain the law that has been set up and look for the opportunity. It always comes. For example, you can come as a J1. With J1, there's something in the US, they call it changing your status. You can come to the US, maintaining your active status. And for instance, you can get married. If you get married, then you do what we call adjusting your status. You can transform your J1 visa, of which you have come as an exchange student, to an F1 visa. They have all that process of how you can transform from one status to another legally. But many people want to go the shortcut way, and that's why they end up in the issues with the government, and they spoil it for our country.
Right, right. Thank you, Danson, for that. We shall be coming back to you in a second. But now I want to involve ladies in the room right now. We want to talk to Maureen, we want to talk to Njeri and Njoki. Now, let's start with you, Njoki. Going to work in the Gulf, you went to Dubai, and you stayed there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Can you give us tips? First of all, how does one, I think that one, Jerry, you can take that when you talk to us about how people can actually make it there. But I want you, from your own experience, what are the do's and don'ts of finding work, moving, working, and coming back successfully?
Okay. Kitu ya kwanza mtaniruhusu nipinge Njeri and my brother there. Wamesema saa hii ni rahisi sana mtu kwenda Gulf kuliko kitambo. I think kitambo ilikuwa more easier than sahi. Juu sahi, okay, I'm also a recruiter, by the way. When I came back from Gulf, I decided to become one. Ndio watu wasaidike venye nilisaidika. So like
is there more money in recruiting or actually going and working?
Yes.
Do you get more by recruiting others to go, or do you get more by actually going there and working?
Let me say both.
All right, please continue.
Okay. So like before getting a passport, it was easy. It was more easy getting a passport before than now. Juu kupata passport kitambo ulikuwa unaipata maybe in a month. Ikienda sana maybe 2. Sahi unaweza kaa hata 6 months without getting a passport. You have to push it. Lazima ufanye kitu ndio itoke haraka. So I think hiyo nitakataana na wao kidogo. Nitawapinga kidogo. Advantages of kwenda huko Gulf, sana sana huwa tunaenda juu ya pesa, looking for greener pasture. So let me say money, more money than I was getting when I was here. That's one advantage of going to those countries. Number two, you learn a lot. You learn a lot. Yeah.
It's easy to learn. Oh,
Kidogo tu, sorry. How did you deal with in the course of learning? Kwanza hao watu ambao unazungumza nao hawazungumzi Kiswahili au Kiingereza. So mlikuwa mnawasiliana namna gani?
That's why I said you learn a lot. Like kama ni language. Like sahi, I know Arabic. Sikuwa najua Arabic kitambo. Sikusomea. But when I went there, nililearn. So I think hata hiyo ni
Like ulienda shule ama ilikuwa through?
Sikuenda shule.
Just by talking to them.
Just by talking to them. Now I know Arabic. Sahi hakuna mtu anaweza nisengenya na Arabic. Yeah, I'm very good in Arabic, by the way.
Nice.
And I think those are the concerns we want to address
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Because then we're talking about releasing our people to these different countries. But now you people who have been there and understand the challenges that, new ones would actually go through. What is being done to make sure that these adjustments are made so that the troubles, because you see, learning is good. It is even much better when you learn in a comfortable environment as opposed to learning just because of the hardships that you've gone through. So as agents, as policymakers, as government, as civil society, people who address the rights of individuals in whatever capacity, whether you're home or you are abroad, what are some of the things that are being done to make sure that at least watu hata wakienda huko, it's an easy landing again for the ones that you're going to take there, as opposed to the times that you had to go through so much so that you can learn and as well make money.
So come up again.
Yani swali yangu is as simple as kama nyinyi mlipitia, tuseme wewe umeenda huko abroad, umepitia, umelearn, which is a good thing. One wants to learn in a comfortable environment as opposed to learning because of the zile mashida umepitia. So what are you people doing to make sure that you streamline, activities so that wale watu wana travel sahi, then they don't get it rough like you probably did. Kama mna make sure that watu wana learn, unakuwa hapo una sacrifice, unakuwa na hard time. So do you sometimes have trainings before Arabic so that by the time someone flies out, then they don't have, ako ready.
Unawatayarisha vipi wale ambao wanataka kwenda?
Sahi kuna shule. Sahi kuna shule. Sahi before uende Gulf, you have to go to school first. Lazima uende usomee kupika. Kama nizo chakula zao kitambo ulikuwa tu unaenda unafunzwa ukiwa huko. So mwenye amekuajiri ndo anakufunza kupika. Lakini sahi you have to go to school here in Kenya. You learn how to cook their food.
Yes.
You learn how to use kila kitu huko ni machines. And maybe hujui kutumia. So you have to learn first before you go there.
Before we go on break, I can see Mourinho really nodding. What was your experience? Ni muhimu sana kujifunza hivi vitu ulifunzwa kabla uondoke?
Hapana. Nilitoka 2019, sasa tukwa na shule. Nile unaenda tu kwa agent, I want to go Saudi Arabia, anze process passport na nini. Within like 2 to 3 weeks umetravel. So my experience pale imekuwa poa. At least nimejua kuongea Kiarabu, sikuwa najua kuongea Kiarabu. I know how to cook their foods. At least tumechange life ya wazazi wetu, even ya watoto wetu hata yetu. At least niko na more experience.
Unaweza rudi huko?
Hata niko ready, hata I have visa already.
Oh, unangoja sisi kuweka.
Nini ilifanya urudi? Ilikuwa 2 years ikaisha ikalapse?
Nilienda 2 years. Nilienda 2 years and 2 months. Nikarudi vacation kuangalia my parent and my kid.
Okay.
Tena nikarudi another 2 years. Nikamaliza hata sasa tena narudi for 5 good years.
Hey.
I have already my visa for 5 good years.
Kwa hivyo mambo si mbaya sana vile siosikia.
It's all about ujue kenye inakupeleka first of all.
Alright.
And focus kile kitu inakupeleka.
But definitely kuna vitu unaweza taka zichangiwe for the better.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be coming back to that.
And we have a question here, and we'll also be fronting. We invite you to continue sending in your questions. Maybe even if you have a question to call in live to the director here from the State Department, our number will be on your screens shortly. You can send your questions, our WhatsApp number, as well as our SMS line. But let's go for a short break. We'll be back in a short while. This to this.
Right.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia
Right. Welcome back, good people. If you're watching us right now, you're watching the Daily Report and the People's Court. We're talking about migration of labor. And tonight we have wonderful stories from wonderful ladies here. Just before we went on break, Maureen, ulikuwa unatuelezea maisha yako kule Saudia. Talk to us a little bit about this thing that we hear about. Every Kenyan has a story to tell. Waliona kwenye mtandao, waliona kwenye TV ama kwenye magazeti kwamba kuna wale ambao walisafiri kule lakini wakapata matatizo, wengine wameumizwa, wengine wamepigwa, wengine wamepata matatizo na sheria kule. Kwa experience yako, unaweza kutuelezea ni nini chanzo cha haya matatizo kule?
Mimi naweza sema hivi, Waarabu ni tofauti. Like sisi wa Kenya hatuko, karakta zangu si kawa ya huyu mwana. So venye utaenda kuishi na huyo Mwarabu, ile masharti yenye atakwambia itabidi umefollow. Haya. And then bado challenges iko kwa kazi. Kuna ule mwenye unaweza pewa kazi mob, maybe time ya kupumzika ndio kidogo. So hizo ndio challenges zinafanyanga, like maybe tunasema makemboi wenye wana kemboi.
Kukemboi ni kufanya nini?
Kutoroka, yani Kipchoge kutoroka nje. Yeah. Alafu kuna place ingine maybe food nini, si wote, kuna pale pengine maybe unaweza pata food maybe breakfast na lunch pekee or supper only. Yeah. So hizo ndio challenges. Lakini ukijua kenye imekupeleka itabidi kuwa tu patient na utrust God kwa kila kitu, utamaliza mwendo yako salama na umalize contract yako na urudi country yako kwa amani. Kitu ya kwanza ukienda, kumbuka penye umetoka. Kumbuka penye umetoka na ukumbuke ile kitu nilikupeleka. So mimi venye nilienda huko, nilikumbuka ile life yangu yenye ilinitoa hapa Kenya, kwa sababu kupata job ilikuwa ngumu. Hata ukipata job ile salary yenye unapata hiyo nini kutoshelesha na familia yako. So nikajaribu nikasema let me try outside there. Nione venye life itanipeleka. But I thank God hizo miaka 4 yenye nimespend, at least nimeona changes, nimeona vitu zimebadilika, life imechange, everything iko. So mimi naweza advise madem, ukipata chance ya kwenda huko nje, tumia vizuri. Tumia vizuri. Ukiona mwarabu wako ampelekani vizuri, ongea na agent mwenye amekupeleka, ikiwezekana akuchenjie nini akuchenjie place ingine, either akurudishe Kenya. Yeah,
all
that's
right.
my experience, yeah.
Njeri, I want you to jump in and I want you to talk to us a little bit about what happens when you take people there and then they do this Kemboi or Kipchoge situation. What position does that put you in as an agent? Also talk to us about some of the complaints people have had about agents. Kwamba mnapeleka mtu huko, mna abandon. As you prepare that answer, I want you ladies to tell me one more thing. You went in the year 2019. Na wewe ukaenda
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Guys, how did you survive COVID in the Gulf?
Well, ilikuwa hard. Ilikuwa hard that time.
Ilikuwaje? Talk to us, Maureen, and then
for me, nini kama hiyo wakati ya COVID. Mimi I thank God. I don't know kama ni hizi ngozi zetu, I don't know. Imagine ilishika kila mtu kwa hiyo nyumba. Kila mtu. And mimi ndio nawaserve, mimi ndio nawapikia, mimi ndio nawafulia, but mimi I really thank God. Haikuni affect.
You survived.
Yes, I survived.
What about you?
Yeah, pia mimi wote waligonjeka but mimi sikugonjeka.
Wow.
Ikianza nilikuwa naambiwa vaa mask. Yaani kila kitu wataki, yani like wanaona wewe ndio utanini. But venye ilinini boma yote wote, but me I survived.
And then sasa consider also that you're away from home.
Yeah.
Una watu wako, marafiki zako, vitu vyako vya kawaida. So you're isolated kidogo.
Yeah.
Kisha mnafika kule, then kuna quarantine ambayo ni isolation tena nyingine. How did you guys manage that?
Gulf yenyewe ni isolation.
As it is, eh?
Yeah, juu hakunanga kutoka place yenye umeenda kazi. Kama umeenda as a cleaner, you remain to be a cleaner. Where you clean unakaa huko.
Hapo.
Yeah, kama you are a house help, utakaa kwa nyumba. Mpaka contract iishe. Hakuna kwenda nje. Yeah, kama you are security, utakaa kwenye unafanya kazi.
Kwa company.
Yeah, kwa kampuni.
Wow, so ni ngumu eh?
But I think that's the reason why
Jerry.
we're having this conversation,
Yes.
Jerry.
Exactly. Now, talk to us about that, the question I've asked.
Yeah. So most of the people who Keboys wanatuweka kwa shida sana as agents because most of the family don't understand this girl ran away. So they go to the DCI reporting us, the DCI is in my office, all over the labor office. Yeah, this girl is suffering. But first of all, the girl don't say, I ran away from the house or from the company.
They don't tell the truth.
Yeah, they don't tell the truth. Yeah, so and then as the agent, we are suffering a lot. Yeah.
Is it because things are not okay? Because my imagination would be, mtu hawezi Kemboi tu bure.
No.
Unaona, hawezi amka tu decide things are okay.
They run away with the expectation of earning a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amekosa kuridhika na kile
na kile kilimpeleka hapo. Yeah, amedanganywa huko nje kuna pesa mingi. Alafu anapata different story.
Kwa ground.
Yeah, kwa ground vitu ni different.
But let's face it, sir. Just listening to you want to ask a question?
Yeah. I am Pamela from Kenya. My question is that there are agents licensed. If yes, then why are our young girls killed and the agents still walk free?
And we want you to confirm whether that is what is happening.
Responsibility agent ni nini, Njeri?
Responsibility agent, when I take a girl, I have to follow up everything. this girl akiwa na shida anafaa kuni-inform, and myself I inform the office on the other side, and we have to follow up. Yeah. So when a girl has a problem, the sponsor has to take the girl back to the office and they solve the issue. If they don't understand each other, we can give her another house or come back to Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Senior, allow me to ask this, Victor.
Mr. Monzia, yes.
All right. So, first of all, listening to them, even as Maureen says that things are good, she's looking forward to go back, you can read some more of kuvumilia. You know, tunavumilia because mtu anakumbuka mahali ametoka, which is basically what life is about. But how can we get them from this situation ya kuvumilia to a situation where, you know, you go there, fine, not because the things are bad like she was saying, or basically just you have gone there and the situation is good for you in terms of work, and, you know, the environment is friendly for you to work, and even recommend for other Kenyans to come on board. This, of course, noting that we're not just talking about the Gulf, we're talking about different countries. And as well, what I began by saying, what do we do for the people who are living in Kenya from different countries to ensure that their stay here is good enough, so that even when they take a good report back home, it makes it easy for the people to as well, back at their homes, treat Kenyans in a good way?
Thank you very much. You told me
Linda.
Linda.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. I think what is coming out from our colleagues in the other table is that there is lack of information on the part of our migrants when they are departing to their destination countries. And I think one of them has mentioned that nowadays there is training that a category of our migrant workers have to undergo before they are allowed to, you know, leave for their jobs abroad. And those are some of the reforms that the ministry, through our agencies, the National Industrial Training Authority and the National Employment Authority, have introduced, because we want to equip the migrants with the necessary information that will make them be productive in their place of work, that will facilitate them to be able to resolve issues when they come. Because most of the challenges that they face there are as a result of failure to understand how to manage labor disputes within the workplace. That is the key challenge I can attribute to the challenges that our migrants in the GCC countries, and particularly in the domestic sector, face. Because most of the challenges that we face from that region are from domestic workers. We have, in Saudi, we have close to almost now 300,000 Kenyans working there. I think close to almost 200,000 are in semi-skilled and skilled sectors. We hardly hear of any complaints from those cadre of workers. Violations are hardly reported. But within the domestic setup, that's where we have challenges, and it's because of sometimes the information that they have to enable them navigate the challenges of an employment relationship. And that's why the ministry, through our agency, that is the National Industrial Training Authority, has licensed private training providers to now train each domestic worker. Each worker is going for a cleaning job in GCC is supposed to undergo a pre-departure training lasting at least 14 days if they are from 4 level of qualification, and 21 days if it's a class 8. During that training, they are trained on dispute resolutions, their rights, the issues about culture, issues about the country where they are going, how to mingle with the residents there, how to channel their complaints to the competent authorities within that country. That's the Ministry of Labor, the police, because redress mechanisms exist in those countries. Before they go, we also have to ensure that they have undergone what we call the attestation process. That's where their contracts are checked by a labor officer to ensure that somebody has given informed consent to the job that they are going to perform. They are aware of the salary that they are going to be paid. They are aware of the workload and other terms and conditions that appertain to an employment contract. That all is being done now. Previously, it was being done, but it was not being done in a proper way. And that is what largely has contributed to the issue of the Kembois, the runaways. Because many of our sisters who are employed in the households in that region opt to run away instead of reaching out to the embassy for redress, calling the police, or engaging the Ministry of Labor. Because those are the avenues that are provided for in the labor law in those countries.
Yeah. You bring in an important point. Let's bring in Danson
Yes.
because of the experience in the US. There is, Danson, thank you for staying on, the line with us. There is the issue of registering with the home embassy in whichever country you go to. Talk to us about the importance of being able to do this and perhaps the assistance that has been offered to you or your Kenyan colleagues, in different circumstances, especially in the US.
Thank you so much. So the issue, the registration, and even director can confirm with me, it's many people who live in the diaspora don't want to register with the embassy. And as I said, the main reason why the people avoid to register with our embassies is because of the trust issue with the government. Many people are not well informed that if the information is captured by the government, they feel it can be released to the other government. For instance, you may come here in the United States and out of circumstances, you lose your status. And some people want to go through the process of regaining their status back. And at that time, in simple terms, or to say, wanaenda chini ya maji, people really don't want to, they don't want to share where they live. They don't want to expose themselves. So it has been a challenge for people to do that because of the trust. But I've seen the government doing some progress. I know they are working on an integrated system, working together with agencies. And it has to be clear that migrant workers, they are normally different from people who just move in the diaspora for other reasons. For instance, someone can move because of the medical issue, as a student, but for migrant workers, they kind of have a formal agreement with the employer, so it's easy to track them. But this other category of people who move to the diaspora, it's quite a challenge. And there's only one way we can do this. We need to bring trust. People have to trust the government. The government has to really take the diaspora serious, because at the moment, we haven't seen the seriousness of the government when they are supporting the diaspora. Apart from giving us the State Department, the diaspora wants more. They want their rights to vote. They want their children who are born here not to be subjected to 1.5 million fee for them to gain the Kenyan citizenship. They want their children that are visiting in the country, they don't have to hustle to get their documents done. So there's a lot of frustration in the diaspora. People don't have that trust, because for the government to access information of these people, they must do, and some of these things are already shared with the government on what are the priorities for the diaspora. Like for instance, at the moment, people want to vote. People want their polling station to be set up closer to where they live. If you come to the United States, the US is as big as Africa. We only have the embassy in Washington, D.C., and the distance between one state to another state is like you're moving from one country to another country. People don't have access physically to our missions abroad. And unless the government address some of these pertinent issues, the trust will not be there. Once the trust has been brought back, people will not have any issues to register. For instance, if an American comes to Kenya, they register with the embassy. Yeah. And if there is any issue, the embassy can actually send alerts, including terrorist issue. They will tell them, don't go to Marsabit, don't go to Mombasa, don't go to this because of this, because they trust their system. So unless the government comes in and bring in the diaspora, and I have to pose this question to our director tonight, how many diasporans is he working with? And not the diaspora who live in Kenya, the diaspora actually who live who are domiciled in these countries, who live in the UK, so it has to be like done in a way that to bring back the trust, but people still don't trust the government that much to share the information with the embassies.
Danson, as we wind up, talk to us about the very pregnant issue, the very prominent issue. So I will come with the visitor visa. You've invited, say, a family member to come, and for some reason, working at McDonald's seems like they can make a few more coins more than Kenya, and that life seems to be quite exciting. The visa is quite a duration. Talk to us about the quote-unquote risks of that. What perhaps are the opportunities, if there are, in terms of just understanding and respecting the status in which a country allows you to visit, just very briefly.
If you come as a visitor in the US, the law does not allow you to work. So you are coming to visit. If you're coming to visit a family, that is the time. That is what you're supposed to do. Your purpose is to visit. But you have seen people come in the US, but they are family members, and the families try to help them adjust their status. Remember, you are allowed to tell the customs how long you're going to stay in the US. On a visiting visa, you have a maximum of 6 months, but normally you have to tell the immigration officer you're staying 1 week or 2 weeks. But for instance, if my mother comes to the US to visit me, I'll tell her I want to stay with my mom for 6 months before she goes back, because I haven't seen her for quite a long time. And if she's my mother, there's another process I can initiate to have her change her status and be able to work. So you are not supposed to go to work at McDonald's on a visiting visa, but there are other processes that the government has put in so that you can adjust from just being a visitor or another category to also getting a work permit and work in the US.
Thank you, Danson. We'll be coming very briefly to have your closing remarks. Back to studio, Linda.
And of course, I'm glad that Danson mentioned something to do with work permit and all the difficulties that come along with getting that or acquiring that. Yeah. I hope Senior will speak to it. But yes, there are a couple of, there's feedback here, and therefore in form of questions. That's why I say it so. So there's one, Steve Mwash, who says, hawa agent ndio wanasababisha hiyo shida ya Kenyan wakuwe Kemboi juu ya salary. Kemboi hulipo salary ya juu kuliko mwenye na contact. And then it's unfortunate that hakuna, ati once umetoka Kenya, hakuna vile agent anaweza kukusaidia hata kidogo huko Saudi. So inabidi mtu apambane na hali yake. Haya, mwingine anasema nini? Hi, I'm Lavenda. I worked in Saudi for 2 years. All I can say is it's all about determination, focus, and prayers. Otherwise, if I was given a chance, I can go back. Currently in Kisumu, Kenya. I am Jimmy from Kenya. I have had the challenges you mentioned that the workers face, but does that qualify them to be harassed, and why the agencies don't intervene? Because most of them, when in such situations, the agencies are nowhere to help. Lastly, let's pick this one. Hello, how can I get an agent for finding jobs abroad? I think that one then goes to Njeri. So, Senior, we go back to you. And I haven't heard what you do to make sure that at least the ones that are in Kenya, those ones that are coming to Kenya from different countries are taken care of, so that as well they can guarantee our own a nice stay in their various countries.
I think answering that directly is that we have set up what we are calling migrant resource centers to facilitate the return and reintegration of migrants who have completed their tour of duty. They are in the formative stages. We've done that with the assistance of the International Labour Organization and IOM. I think we have 5 centers at the moment in Nairobi, Thika, Eldoret, which are operational and which are being run by the National Employment Authority. So something is being done around that. We have worked on standard operating procedures for facilitating the return of migrants.
What of those ones who are foreigners staying in Kenya?
The foreigners from?
Yes, from different countries who are now coming to Kenya to work in Kenya.
Kenyans or
not
foreigners?
Kenyans, foreigners.
Yes.
People from different countries coming to Kenya to work. For instance, you'll hear that there are girls from Uganda who come to work in Kenya. They find it easier here and all that.
Yeah, what we do with those ones is that, for one, our constitution guarantees non-discrimination for any worker who is legally employed in the country. So they enjoy all the labor rights that have any Kenyan will enjoy it in our workplace. And if they have issues, we entertain them within the labor administration system that we have. And they are paid same, salaries, same benefits, things like that. So we don't discriminate.
Okay.
So that is, to us, the encouragement that we give to them. And you've heard the president the other day saying that Kenya is open. I mean, everybody from Africa can access Kenya visa-free. So that facilitation is a signal that Kenyan labor market is open, unlike many countries in our region.
Will Danson be able to vote in future?
No, the issue of voting, I think that's very important. And I think Mr. Danson is aware that the president also created the State Department for Diaspora Affairs. That is, another department within Foreign Affairs, principally charged with dealing with the issues of diasporans and migrant workers who live abroad, growing the diaspora presence and growing the products, facilitating them in whatever issues that they face in their countries of destination. And I think he must have met with the PS for that department, Rosalind Jogu, who has been, moving around these countries, meeting diaspora associations and telling them the services that the department is offering, including pushing and working with MDAs within the wider government to ensure that some of these key countries of destination where we have many Kenyans are now designated as voting centers so that they don't have to come to Kenya to vote during elections. And in fact, maybe in the next round of elections, we may end up having a constituency for diasporans. I think that is something that is being worked out. And we have also opened voting centers in some of the key destination countries. By the way, I was also working in the embassy in Qatar, where I was the founding labor attaché when the labor attaché offices were opened. And by the time I was leaving in 2022, Qatar had been designated as a voting center. And I think they were able to vote in the last elections for the presidential vote. But we are planning to also expand it. Yes, also these things for the Middle East, I understand them very well. And we lived through COVID with the migrants there. And we facilitated a lot of them to return. In fact, we arranged, I think, 2 flights, emergency flights during COVID, because a lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people are having challenges with food and all that because employers did not have jobs. So we are fairly familiar. And to go back to Mr. Danson's point on facilitating the migrant workers, the diaspora, State Department of Diaspora is also involved a lot in negotiation with the private sector players, the banks, to ensure, to develop a mechanism whereby reinvestment back home becomes easy, that their money, their earnings are not lost to unscrupulous, players who cheat people. They have also been very active in facilitating the registration of associations of diaspora in the countries where they don't exist. And I know each quarter they are running what we call the mobile consular services, where they now engage the diasporans, listen to them, and hear their issues as they emerge. So that is a regular, activity that is in their work program.
Excellent.
And like in the US, they were there for almost 2 weeks in April, May. Yeah. Danson has raised will now be addressed because they are still they could be posting officers in future to address those issues.
Yeah. Now, thank you so much for that. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, Danson in Washington. We have a conversation that we'd like to say is bigger than the time that we have.
Yes.
So what I would like to do is to just take a round of parting shots. So kila mtu naomba tayarisha kitu kimoja ambacho ungependa kusema Wakenya wasikie. And I think we'll start with our brother in Washington DC, Danson, if you can hear us. Tupe neno moja as a parting shot, if you had to say one more thing about this subject, what would that be, please? And then after Danson, we'll go, of course, to Njoki, then to Maureen, then, of course, to Madam Sabina, and then we go to Njeri, and then we'll also listen to our guest here, Mr. Munzia. Danson, what is your parting shot?
Thank you. This is what I would tell my fellow Kenyans. There are opportunities in the diaspora, but you have to do it in a safe way. Sometimes you may want to go to a particular country, your dream country may be US, Europe, whichever, but it may not be that easy. As long as you're looking for an opportunity to support your family, do it. The government is ready. The director has been explaining these things. The agencies are being streamlined. Go to the websites of the government, make sure that you validate the agencies. And also when you come to the diaspora, it's not going to be easy as you may think. Sometimes it may be easy to few, but most of the time it's difficult. Come, let's grow our country. And when you come here, it doesn't mean you are moving away. You can still go back home and grow the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Danson, and we wish you the best. Over to you, Njoki.
Thank you so much. Kama tu venye Danielson amesema, kuna opportunities huko nje. So if you feel like Kenya ni kugumu, usiogope, just chukua passport, tafuta agent akusaidie, enda utafute kazi ufanye. As you can see, sisi tumefanya kazi huko, tumesaidika, and so far so good. So mtu akipata opportunity, enda. Yeah, put God first, go work, na mambo itakuwa tu sawa. Yeah.
Asante sana. Maureen?
Yeah, thank you. Ninataka kuambia Wakenya wenzangu, ukipata huko opportunity huko nje, tumia vizuri and ufollow sheria ya hiyo country yenye umeenda. Usitoka hapa uone ile freedom yenye tuko nayo Kenya venye tunafanya, ukaenda ukafanye huko pia. Vitu ni tofauti kwa kila nchi. So na advice Wakenya wenzangu, tukipata opportunity tuende tukafanye kazi, ukipata hiyo visa passport, acha tusaidie familia yetu. Yeah, thank you.
Asante. Sabina?
So in closing, first of all, I'd like to once again thank you for having us. And I'd just like to mention just a couple of things. As the Kenya Diaspora Alliance, we normally have a convention at the end of the year, which is basically a global meeting for diasporans to come into the country. And this year it's going to be held in December, I think between the 8th and the 10th, if I'm not wrong. And so I'd encourage the diasporans to, of course, register in our website, the www.kdhc.co.ke. But aside from that, this is what I'd like to remind us once again. When we focus on the conversation on diasporans, please let's remember we're looking at remittances that are clocking almost $700 billion at this point. What this means is that the strength of the diasporans cannot and should not be taken lightly. And I'll say this for this particular reason. When for those of us who are living in the country or have had the privilege of traveling outside, there's a specific and special way in which economies treat investors. When an investor comes to you, you want to treat them with respect, you want to treat them with proper structures, and you want to invest confidence in that relationship. If we can do that with the foreigners that are living in this country, in my humble opinion, I believe that the Kenyan diaspora, on the basis of their remittances, stand the chance to be treated with the utmost respect. And just to solidify that statement, last year during our convention, we had our ambassador, Meg Whitman, and she mentioned a statement that it stuck with me as a rapporteur. And she said, Kenya is Africa's Silicon Valley. And we all know that Silicon Valley in America would be the equivalent of basically an economic powerhouse within a specific state. And so we have basically the world recognizing Africa as a powerhouse. And so just in closing, I would like to, involve the government and agencies, civil societies, philanthropies, and all the necessary key stakeholders to recognize that there's power in coordinating, but we have to mention that the foundation of that coordination lies with the investors, which in this particular conversation is the Kenyan diaspora. Yeah, right. So in closing, please let's just focus on that, and in coordination lies the power of targeting this narrative, and we can reframe Africa's narrative using Kenya's diaspora's remittances. Thank you.
Excellent. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you for the rest of the points. Jerry, please, what's your point? Parting shot to Kenyans.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. This goes to those that are willing to travel. Make sure you are going for a reliable agent and make sure he or she is a registered company accredited by the Ministry of Labor. Also, don't go with higher expectation because that's where they are failing. Yeah, in the name of Maju. Yeah, they forgot that they are going to work. Yeah.
Perhaps how can people, reach your agency?
Okay, they can call my number 0798 056 510.
Again?
0798 056 510.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Monsia, expectations, manage expectations.
Yeah.
Maju. Usieke expectations, Maju.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you too for inviting us to this conversation. We are very happy. I think we have contributed to disseminating the information that is missing out there. And I want to reiterate what our sister Sabina has said, that there is need to value, show respect to migrants because they are now the leading foreign exchange earner for our country in terms of the remittances, and that should be demonstrated through the facilitation that we accord to them during their movement and during their return through structures so that they can have confidence in that. So that is a very important takeaway from this conversation. But I want to assure that the government is very keen, and it is a better agenda for this government. It's one of the key delivery programs. In fact, our ministry is being now rated on the issue of labor migration alone. And we are doing a lot in that regard, strengthening the governance systems, because the governance systems have been very weak across board. So we are working a lot on the bills. We have the National Labor Migration Policies that has also almost been finalized, the Labor Migration Management Bill that is going to address all these challenges that we are having, and we are also strengthening on the protection, posting more labor attaches in key destination countries, and also sensitizing our ambassadors to now refocus on the migrants, because previously the focus was on trade, business, and things like that. But now we are treating migrants as the way we treat our other products that we sell out there. So they have been sensitized to focus more now. More of their time is devoted to the migrants, wherever they are. They have been trained on labor issues. So that is very key, but I also want to reiterate what she has said. Moving through licensed agencies and registering the embassies when they on their arrival, and visiting the websites of MDS.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time to come and share with us your insights. Asanteni sana. I know your contributions have helped all the Kenyans that are listening to us right now. Asanteni sana. And please come again when you call. Asante.
Thank you.
Thank you, good people. My name is Victor Muyakene. And from me, I say good night.
All right, just appreciating 2 or 3 of you. There's someone who says kuna niswangu Saudi ameteseka sana, akiambia agent ashughulike asaidiki, nitafanya aje? I think that will go to government. Why are passports taken away from workers? How does the Ministry of Labor protect the workers from mistreatment or abuse? And of course, is there any qualification? I think that then the answer would be in a depend. And then I think the government should regulate the so-called agencies, because they really don't care about the diaspora. What they care about is the money. And once again, appreciating TV47, he says, or she says, Superwoman, yes, thank you TV47 for the best agenda you had tonight, but kindly the government should take initiative about the private agencies. Those people, they don't really follow up on ensuring that, of course, life is easy for the people that they send abroad. My name is Linda Alela. It was great having you. Asante sana.
Indeed, and I'm George Marenga, thanking you so much for your splendid company tonight. To Lydia Njeri, Director, Linjen International Limited, Joel Manzia, AG Secretary, Labor Migration Management, State Department for Labor and Skills Development. On the wonderful ladies table, we've had Sabina Chiang from the International Development Practitioner KDA Secretariat and also Rapporteur, Maureen Asale, as well as Njoki